This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. I am not a licensed financial advisor. Always do your own research and consult a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Most people don't make bad investments once. They make them twice, the second time to justify the first. You've done it. You paid for something that wasn't working and kept paying. Not because you believed in it, but because walking away felt like admitting a mistake. That feeling has a name, and understanding it is one of the most financially valuable things you can do. Because it's not a quirk. It's not weakness. It's a predictable pattern your brain runs every time money is on the line. It's called the sunk cost fallacy, and it is one of the most quietly destructive forces in personal finance. A sunk cost is money that has already been spent and cannot be recovered. The rational move, the move every economist agrees on, is to ignore it completely when making future decisions. What's gone is gone. Only the future matters. But that's not how humans work. We're not wired for cold rationality. We're wired to protect our ego, avoid shame, and appear consistent. So when we've spent money on something, we experience a psychological obligation to continue. The investment becomes a story we're telling about ourselves, and we can't let that story end badly. So we keep going. We hold the losing stock, waiting for it to return to what we paid. We keep the gym membership we never use because we already paid for the year. We sink more money into a failing business, a dying relationship, a car that shouldn't be on the road. This isn't stupidity. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. And that's the problem. The sunk cost fallacy was studied extensively by behavioral economists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. Their research revealed a core asymmetry in human decision-making. We feel losses roughly twice as intensely as equivalent gains. Losing $200 hurts more than gaining $200 feels good. This asymmetry is called loss aversion, and when combined with a prior investment, it creates what psychologists call the escalation of commitment, a pattern where people increase their investment in a losing decision specifically because they've already invested in it. The internal logic sounds like this. I've already put in $10,000. I can't quit now. I'd be throwing that away. But here's the reality. That $10,000 is gone whether you continue or not. The only question is whether continuing makes financial sense going forward. Almost always, it doesn't. What makes this particularly insidious is that escalating commitment often looks like virtue from the outside. Doubling down on a struggling business looks like persistence. Holding a bad stock looks like conviction. Our culture celebrates people who didn't give up. We tell their stories when they succeed. We quietly forget the many more who stayed too long and lost everything. This creates a cultural bias that reinforces the fallacy. Cutting losses is labeled weakness. Changing course looks like quitting. And so people continue, long past the point where any rational analysis would have told them to stop. Let's be specific about where this shows up, because it's everywhere. In investing, the sunk cost fallacy manifests as what's called the break-even bias. You bought a stock at $50. It drops to $25. Instead of evaluating whether the company still has merit, you fixate on $50. I'll sell when it gets back to $50. But the stock has no idea what you paid, and your decision to hold is now driven entirely by your entry price, not by any analysis of future value. This is one of the primary reasons individual investors consistently underperform the market. They hold losers too long and sell winners too early. In entrepreneurship, research shows that founders who've invested more of their own capital are significantly less likely to pivot or shut down a failing business, even when outside evaluators clearly see the writing on the wall. The more they've put in, the harder course correction becomes. In everyday life, it shows up in subscriptions you don't use, cars you keep repairing past the point of reason, courses you feel obligated to finish, even though they stopped being useful 3 modules in. In education, it shows up when someone spends 2 more years completing a degree in a field they no longer want, not because the career appeals to them, but because they've already come this far. They graduate into a job they resent. The real cost isn't tuition. It's years of misaligned effort that compounds so frustrating. You can understand the sunk cost fallacy completely, define it, explain it, recognize it in others, and still fall directly into it when it's your money on the line. That's because the trap isn't intellectual. It's emotional and social. Cutting your losses means telling the people around you that you were wrong. Your spouse, your business partner, your followers, your past self. It means letting go of a story you've been invested in, sometimes publicly. There's also regret aversion at work. You don't just fear the loss, you fear the specific feeling of exiting and then watching the price recover. What if I sell and it bounces back next week? That fear keeps people paralyzed long after logic would have moved them on. Consistency bias plays a role too. Once you've taken a public stance, told people you believe in something, committed to a path, changing course feels like betraying your own character. The investment stops being a financial decision and becomes an identity statement. The sunk cost fallacy persists because escaping it requires not just a financial decision, it requires an identity adjustment. And that is always the harder work. 4 approaches that actually break the pattern. 1. Use the zero-based question. Before continuing any investment of money, time, or energy, ask, if I had no prior history with this, no money already spent, no public commitment made, would I choose to start it today? If the honest answer is no, the sunk cost is making your decisions. 2. Pre-decide your exit criteria. Before entering any significant financial commitment, write down the specific conditions that would trigger an exit. A price point, a timeline, a performance threshold. When you decide these in advance, you remove the emotionally compromised in-the-moment decision and replace it with a system you built when your thinking was clear. 3. Separate identity from decisions. The sunk cost trap is most powerful when the investment is tied to who you think you are. If you are the person who started this business, who bought this stock, who chose this career, then exiting feels like self-betrayal. Practice treating decisions as experiments, not identity statements. You are not your portfolio. You are not your startup. 4. Get perspective from someone with no stake. When you're inside a sunk cost spiral, your judgment is compromised. Find someone with no skin in the game, a trusted advisor, a mentor, a financial professional, and ask them to evaluate the situation as if they were encountering it for the first time. Their view won't be filtered through what's already been spent. The shift this video is asking you to make is from backward-looking to forward-looking. Sunk costs live in the past. Every decision you make exists only in the present. When you evaluate a financial decision, the only question that matters is, given everything I know right now, does continuing make sense going forward? Not whether it justifies what came before, not whether it recovers what was lost. Just, is this the right call from here? Wealthy people learn to cut losses cleanly, not recklessly, not emotionally, but clearly and without ego. They've internalized something most people take years to accept. The money already spent is gone. The only capital under your control is what you do next. Every dollar you spend going forward is a new decision. Give it the clarity it deserves. Don't let the past decide your future. If this hit close to home, there's more where this came from. Every week on Broke Thinking, we break down the psychological patterns that keep people financially stuck, so you can start seeing them for what they are. Subscribe, and we'll see you Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's where we do the work.